Okay. Okay, hello. How are we? Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know. Oh, hi Sarah. How are you? Okay, we're there. We're
Yay!
we're
I've
there.
actually never, I've actually never done this before, so I'm really excited.
Okay, well, I've only just started doing lives as well. Like, this is my second
Okay,
one this week, so I'm new to it as well. So, hello, everyone.
awesome.
Thank you for joining so far. We're going to do a little bit of talking healing today. And so, now you reached out to me. Hey, Ashlyn. Oh, and happy late birthday, by the way. Sorry. Okay, so, now you were wanting to speak on fertility. And then I'll talk more about doing like mental health healing and then just kind of the ways that they can, I guess, overlap. And then just throw out questions to whoever's watching as well. Anytime, you guys feel free. This is very interactive. Any questions that you have, please. Oh, hello. So
Hello.
now, Sarah, you go ahead and start by telling me what is it that you do?
Okay. Well, first of all, I wanted to reach out to you because I've been following you for actually, I think it's been over 2 years now. Like, I was
Yeah,
trying to think.
which is wild.
And it's been so cool to watch your journey because
No,
you've
thank you.
changed so much. Yeah, and I've
I
just
know.
noticed you. Yeah, like you like really coming into your power and like clarity and who you are and like your healing journey. And I was like, even though it's a little bit different, she's had a healing journey and a transformational journey. I've certainly had a healing journey and a transformational journey. So yeah, I thought it could be fun to just kind of, riff off of that. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, it's wild. I think about how I started my profile 2 years ago versus like where it is now or just where I am in general, too. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
like I'm a totally different person.
You
But, and I don't want to say that I'm a totally different person. It's almost more like I got back to myself or I maybe just realized who I was for the first time. Which is incredibly powerful at the same time too. I feel like so much of what I had been doing before in my past life was just serving other people constantly. And then I would wonder, why am I so drained? Why am I so tired? Why do I feel so out of touch with myself? And it's like, yeah, because I was constantly serving other people. I was never thinking about myself. And
yeah.
yeah, and it was a little bit hard when I had to turn that vision inward, because I can see very clearly what's going on with other people. I'm very observant, kind of had to develop this in childhood to keep me safe. But then when it came time to do the introspection, yeah, maybe didn't want to do that as much.
Yeah. And
But
I also like have seen you like like almost like claim what's exciting to you. Like instead
mm,
of you doing okay, what's going to be for the customer or the client or
yeah,
whatever. Like I'm really seeing you step into like what resonates with me and
yeah.
what is my gift. And I really love that.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I
Mhm.
call myself a recovering people pleaser all the time because, again,
Mhm.
I was. And I had a little bit of hardship with that around like last year. I really wanted to make a lot of changes on my platform and not serve people in the same way because it's like that's what's trendy or that's what's accepted. But a lot of what's
Mhm.
trendy or accepted, I don't agree with. So why should I
Yeah.
be putting it on my you like I do? you
Yeah.
know and I think that that
Yeah.
was another thing that I had to go through and be a little bit brave to do that as well, kind of come out with a different opinion from what's mainstream or even what I myself had been saying that year prior. But I just realized, what, I'm allowed to grow, I'm allowed to change, my mind is allowed to change about things as I develop. I would hope that my platform develops, and if it stays stagnant, then that's not a good thing either too. So yeah,
Yeah.
but those mental barriers, they were strong. They were strong,
Yeah.
and anyone that's done a self-healing journey can resonate with that. It takes a lot to get yourself into the space of actually doing it. You know, we can all kind of see, and again, we can point that finger at other people, but like actually doing it for ourselves,
Yeah.
it's tough.
And that's what yeah, and that's what I really encourage with my women who are trying to heal their fertility and become mothers is I really see it as inside game. So there's so many fertility coaches and, you know, fertility doctors and whatever who more focus on the external, which is fine. And I do some of that too. You know, it's like, what's the herb to take? What's the supplement to take? What's this? What's that? But you know, or what's the labs, you know, to take, or what's the diagnostic testing. But really, I would say the core of my work is let's go inside. And
Yeah.
what are you feeling? What are you thinking? Because women can block themselves on their journey to baby in so many, or even if we just talk about health and like healing and wellness in a more general way, women can block themselves in so many ways, as you know, from holding on to childhood traumas, to having, you know, negative thinking, to even like something that even in the past couple days I've like tuned into is this idea of like healing in general, but also like becoming a mother. It requires not only a transformation, but like for you to step into something new. So if a woman is wanting to be a mother, it's like her stepping into a new version of herself, or a woman's wanting to heal her mental health, stepping into a new version of herself. Like only in the past couple of days have I really like thought about that and even had that awareness. And I think that can be scary for women because it's the
Yeah.
unknown. It's like, who am I going to be when I let go of my childhood traumas and when I let go of my, you know, thinking and when I let go of keeping myself in this box? And that's the
Yeah.
same for anything, whether you're wanting to become a mother, you're wanting to heal your mental health, you're wanting to heal your childhood trauma, you know, because that's the unknown. But it really requires women who want to become mothers, or any woman that wants to heal, to embrace the unknown and to step into that new version of herself.
Definitely. Well, and I think you brought up that really good point of who am I going to be if I don't have my trauma? Who am I going to be if I don't have that blame to place on other people? That's another big
Yeah.
one as well, too, is the self-accountability. And I can recognize as well that I have definitely blocked myself in my own journey of fertility. I'm not saying that I do or do not, I'm not exactly sure still whether or not I would ever want to have a child. But I
Yeah.
recognized that there was a deeper part of me that blocked it because I knew I wasn't ready. I knew on that deeper level that I hadn't fully healed my relationship with my mom and the trauma that that caused. And so there was this deeper sort of hidden kind of demon, I guess, around that was always blocking me from developing a deeper relationship, I guess. You know, not necessarily yeah, like a deeper relationship with that aspect of myself. I can see this now clearly after some self-reflection and whatever else. But before, I thought I just didn't want a child. And now I'm
Yeah.
seeing, no, it was more so that I had this trauma where I didn't think I could be a good mom at the end of the day because I came from such a broken home. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that I can't, you know, fix these things, change, or that there's not a doorway for me later on in life. It was just, I could recognize that at that time I wasn't ready.
Yes. And I love that you said that. And I really feel like whether women choose to have a child or not, like their connection to their femininity and their womb space, like that's for them. That's
Yeah.
for them. You know, and even your connection to your own inner mother and to mothering, like that's for you, regardless of what choice you make. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been on my own like inner mother healing journey and inner child healing journey because of my mother as well.
Yeah.
And even though I do want to have a child, you know, eventually, even if I didn't want to, like I can see the benefit of integrating that inner mother healing and integrating that inner child healing. So I think that's awesome that you're going on that journey.
Yeah. Well, you know, you never know. We'll see. But for, I would say maybe 10
Well,
solid
I mean, like
years.
the journey to, yeah, I mean, I'm at the journey to like really honor inside of you, like your inner
Yeah.
mother and your inner child. And yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it probably took about 10 years of actually being away from my home to be able to recognize it. I think for so long, a really long theme in my own mental health journey that I didn't really recognize until lately was I was constantly running. And that came from a fear of abandonment. And I thought that it was like, oh, but I'm just this free spirit that loves to travel, you know, like I think that's what I tried to tell myself. And then I came around to realize, no, like if I leave that place first, if I run from those people first, then I can't be hurt, right? And so it was like this constant me doing this over and over again. But then I found now if I'm actually really wanting to change things, I'm centered in myself. And, you know, it's interesting because you're talking about that womb space for women, and that's so significant and huge and important. And like, I don't think I fully recognize that at first. I kind of like rolled my eyes at it when I first heard it, but I think that's usually like how we are with the things that's going to heal us the most is we hear it and we're like, yeah, whatever. Womb space. But now I come back to it and I realize, no, definitely. And especially for women, if you think about it, you know, like how many times have your eggs been like, you know, in the DNA passed along? And yeah, there's a lot that goes into it that, yeah, is kind of like, maybe not spoken enough about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I just think that, yeah, like whatever choices you make, like having that connection to your womb space, like I see it as our feminine power, our feminine creative life force energy. And whether we choose to have a child or not, like having that deep connection can be a sense of power for us and a sense of connection. And in fact, I even live my life based on my womb, based on like my sacral chakra and like what feels alive there. And so, yeah.
Like for somebody that's just now getting into healing their womb space and like connecting with it for the first time, what would you recommend?
So if they have access to a natural river nearby or an ocean or a lake, it can be really nice to cleanse spiritually your womb with that natural water. Because natural water, it contains certain properties that are really special. Like the structure of natural water, like it's perfectly structured if you compare that to like tap water. And then it comes from Mother Earth, so it has that energy from the earth. So yeah, that's one way, and that's what I did with the Goddess Oshun, because I used to have polycystic ovarian syndrome,
Oh,
which is
wow.
a gynecological disease. Yeah, this was 8 years ago, and a big part of my healing was actually cleansing spiritually my womb at the river. So that's a really good place to start. And the other thing, which is super simple, is just putting your hands on your sacral chakra, on your womb space, and just kind of you know, just taking some breaths and just kind of slowing down a little bit and just like allowing yourself to have that connection for you is another good place. And then
Yeah.
something that I do now is I even will like pull energy out of my sacral chakra. Like I'll kind of put I guess it's kind of a Reiki thing, which I have Reiki level 1 attunement, but like I kind of put my hand on my womb space and I'll even like do this to kind of like pull energy out,
Yeah, nice.
you know.
Yeah.
But I think just keep it simple, like, you know, lay down your bed and just kind of breathe and just kind of connect.
Well, you know, this is something that I've had a lot of thoughts on lately. Is just that I find so much of spirituality right now is very mind based. It's a lot of
Yeah.
getting your mind to like these certain places, like we want to astral project, that's where the information is. And we want to, you know, so much of it feels like you want to leave your body for these higher experiences. But really, I
Yeah.
think in order for us to have it, we need to reground into our body and actually feel it. You know, I think that some of this right now is really encouraging, like kind of being out there and being so disconnected from your body that, yeah, people like may actually realize that they just breathed into their womb space and set that aside. It may have so much more to say or feel or experience than they could, you know, even imagine. And I am only saying this because I recognize this in myself. I recognized that so much of my healing journey had become very mental and had become so much in my mind that I disconnected from my body in some ways, you know? And I think that lately what's actually been helping me more than anything is getting back in touch with my body And that brings so much more clarity to me because our body is so wise, it's so intelligent. Our mind can make up whatever it wants, okay? Our mind will go on whatever story it wants. But if you want to know something that really genuinely happened to you, you have to tap into your body. And I've just had so much within myself come up recently from regrounding that like, I'm like, everybody should be doing this. So yeah, I really love what you're saying is like, keep it very simple. Get into like, you know, the cleansing, the breathing, reconnect with how you physically feel. You know, I think so many people are also really disconnected from how they feel. Like maybe they can tell you, I'm angry, but why are you angry? You know, or I'm sad, but why are you sad? You know, like that actually takes some time. You have to listen and sit with it.
Yeah. And I think that the body wisdom is actually helpful in not only just health in general, but really every area of life. And with women that I work with fertility, what ends up happening is they're so confused and they're like, maybe I should try this, or maybe I should try that, or maybe I should try this technique or this doctor, this da 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 da, and they're not going inside. And you could
Yeah.
say that same thing with mental health, with healing from abuse. I mean, as you probably know, there's so many Instagram pages that are like, oh, if you survive narcissistic abuse, then do this, or do this, or do this, you know? Same thing with mental health. Oh, if you have mental health, do this, do this, do this, do this. What if we just like
Yeah.
into this? Like, what is this? Like, what is this telling me? You
Yeah.
know, like what is this telling me about the right next step for my mental health, or the right next step on my journey to baby, or the right next step to heal, you know, narcissistic abuse or whatever. But what is this? And then I think really like putting ourselves in the right environment. So for me, it's easier for me to listen to this when I'm more in nature. You know, when I'm at
Yeah.
the river, when I'm at the ocean, I'm at the mountain. And I think people don't really give themselves enough of those opportunities, but I think they're so important to be able to not only listen to your body, but listen to that like intuitive awareness that we all have and that connection to spirit.
Definitely.
So
And it's so
yeah.
much clearer when you're in nature. And I feel like Mother Nature, you know, is such a feminine source anyway. It's the ultimate creator. So yeah, if you're wanting to feel that, like there is that special connection. Like I had to this weekend, I knew it. Like I was like, I have to be in nature, get my phone away from me. Nobody's allowed access to me. I have to reground. You know?
Yeah.
And I do think, though, that sometimes feeling into the body is a little bit scary. Again, because, like, you know, pointing that finger outwards when we're in the mind, that's easy, you know? But
Yeah.
coming back in home to the body, it's so much more real. And like the way that it stores things is so much more intense. So it can be, I feel, maybe a little bit more scary, but like you said, that's where the real work happens and that's where the real connection happens. And I think that's why so many people put it off. And I say this again for myself. I don't point any fingers at this. I recognize that within myself first. I was so out of touch with my body because it felt easier to be that way and try to do my healing that way. But yeah. And I just love this comment here, trying to push myself into menopause, take all my babies.
Okay, we'll take
Yeah. Oh, you always crack me up. But yeah. Yeah, you know, and I think that, you know, I'm curious about and what you've seen results wise, like after people kind of, do they turn to you almost as like this last resort? Like I've tried everything that I can think of, and then, okay, now I guess I will look at, you know, what's going on with my mind and my body and see if that's stopping my fertility. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I would say a lot of them, have been struggling for a year or 2 years or even longer, and they've tried all the things. You know, they've tried the yoga, they've tried the diet, they've tried acupuncture and all that stuff,
Mm.
and it's still not working. And usually when that happens, number one, there's usually some type of physical health imbalance like underneath it, and I can help them get clear on what that is. But usually there's other stuff. There's like emotional stuff and energetic stuff and spiritual stuff. Like just to give you an example, the last client I worked with, Shefali and Taylor. When we first started our work together, they were feeling very disempowered,
Yeah.
feeling very confused and very disempowered. And they also weren't trusting themselves. And they weren't trusting their inner awareness.
Yeah.
And so our work was helping them take the power back and helping them trust their intuitive awareness.
Yeah,
And so
that's good.
what ended up happening with them is they had kind of wanted, so they were living in the San Francisco Bay Area,
Mm-hmm.
and they had this awareness for, I think, at least 6 months or so, that they wanted to move to Oregon, like rural Oregon, like Bend, Oregon. But they didn't have the courage to make that move. And
Yeah.
through our work together, helping them take back their power, helping them trust themselves, trust their inner knowing, they finally made the move to Bend, Oregon. And guess what? The perfect fertility doctor happened to be in Oregon, happened to give them a proper diagnosis, happened to give them their baby. It's like, this is the magic that happens when we take our power back. We learn to
Yeah.
trust our intuition and our awareness. I mean, I'm getting children. But yeah, like
Yeah.
this is the magic that can happen. It's like we learn to trust ourselves and take our power back, and then all the right steps happen. The path becomes clear for us on the
Yeah.
right next step. And so for so many women in couples, it's about taking their power back and learning to trust themselves again and trust their inner knowing and their inner awareness. And then all the right decisions just become so, not so clear, but it's so open to them. It's so easy
Yeah.
for them to call in what they truly need.
Yeah. And I love that. It is so true. Like we do. And I've seen this pattern in my life as well too. Like I can feel the intuitive nudges and I'm like, no, because yeah, that trust issue. And then all of a sudden, like as soon as I follow it, it's just like boom, 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 boom. Everything falls into line so quickly, you know?
And the other thing too, fertility. Oh, sorry to interrupt
Oh
you.
no, go ahead.
Okay. The other thing with fertility too is women and couples think that it's going to be a linear path. They think A, B, C, D. And that's not how life is, and that's not how the body is. And that's
Yeah.
not how healing is. And
No,
so I
for sure.
really invite them into being as wacky and weird and wild as possible. Because that's how we heal. That's how we transform. That's how we learn how to trust ourselves. And
Yeah.
I think that's actually a big problem in the fertility realm is women think that it's going to be a linear process or it has to be a linear process. And I find that to be not the case at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, none of it is linear. None of it is linear. Sometimes I think I'm doing so great, and then other days I feel like I've gone 2, 3 steps backwards, Like we can't, we can't expect perfection and that straight walk. And I think that, yeah, more people need to be open to that as well, too. And, for me
Yeah.
as well, a big portion of my journey was also embracing a sober journey, which was really hard for me to do. I tried to be, I tried to lie to myself maybe about it and just kind of say that like I didn't have that big of a problem or whatever. But, and that was something that I realized too was not a straight line and was, back and forth and back and forth. But then when I finally was committed to it, it made it much easier. But that process was difficult. There were days that were really easy for me not to drink, and there were days that were really challenging. There were times that I was consistent for a long time, and then I would slip up and drink, and then, try to take myself back and feel all of these different ways, and I had to embrace that's also not going to be a linear path. That's also going to be something that's more difficult. It's not, yeah. And I've come a long way there. It doesn't, affect me in the same way, but it is amazing to think like there were times in my life where that was, I didn't know if I could reach it. I didn't know if I could ever reach this point that I am now. But I think realizing that sometimes I'm going to be great. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes, like allowing myself that little bit of back and forth is just good. Like, oh, thank you. I can breathe, and sometimes there's so many of these thoughts of like, if you were to, you know, like think negatively, then everything's going to go badly for you. It's going to manifest that way. And sometimes that's also really stressful. Like when it's like, but I can't help my mind. I think negatively sometimes, you know, and embracing the fact that that's also normal. You know what I mean? We can't be super happy, positive people all the time. Some
Yeah.
days are just going to be shitty, you know, and we're going to be in a hard
Yeah,
place. We're going to be in a tough place, you know?
yeah, totally. And it's like, even if we look at the female body, like the female body is non-linear. The female body does not ovulate on the same exact day every month. So if you look at the hormones, how estrogen rises and then progesterone rises, like it's non-linear. And so I think it's really scary for people to get outside of that box. And because it's like in the what if, you know, it's just like with you with drinking, it's like, well, what if? What if I started drinking? What's going to happen? What's my life going to be like?
Mm-hmm.
But whether you're on a sobriety journey or on a fertility journey, whatever, you need to get comfortable with the unknown. And you need to be able to open yourself up to non-linear ways of living life. Because
Yeah.
it's just how I see the world. I mean, even like, you look at the ocean, like sometimes the ocean is calm, and sometimes you live near the ocean, you know this. Sometimes it's calm, and sometimes it's fierce. And there's a non-predictability to that, you know,
Yeah.
there's a non-linearity to that.
Definitely. It's funny because I always think of like the Queen of Cups whenever I think of the ocean, you know, like taking this back to tarot, my love. And I always think of the Queen of Cups as like, so you can either be like super powerful and calm and have like a lot of that on the surface, but at the same time, like when our emotions take over, it's like that tsunami. It's like that ocean, you know what I mean? That just decides like when it wants to clear everything out, it clears everything out, you know? And I feel like that is very part of like the feminine experience as well too, especially in our society today, is learning how to be able to stand up for ourselves, stand up for our needs, hold space for them, because so many people want to take that away from women all the time. And they want to tell us that I will rage. I love that. But yeah, and they want to tell us that us having our emotions, like they must be a certain way all the time, and that, you know, we can't rule because we're like too emotional or whatever. You know, we're constantly having to fight for that right to be able to feel and express ourselves in that state of wherever we are.
Yeah. I'm looking for my charger. My
Oh, no
phone's about to
problem.
die. But no, I think I got it. Oh, my charger was here the whole time. Yeah, and it's like that's the beauty of the feminine, and that's the beauty of like the feminine body. Women should allow themselves to honor their feminine bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
And all
much
the
so.
like wacky, yeah, and all the wacky ways that our feminine body wants to express herself. But if you're wanting to like get back into your natural fertility as a woman, like really embracing all of the wild and wacky ways that the body wants
Yeah.
to express herself.
Yeah. And, you know, I just feel like there is, you know, this call, I think, for women to be so placid sometimes, you know, and then that's the proper feminine thing to do. You know, and that kind of drives me crazy as well. I don't like this idea that, you know, like we need to mute women and their emotions and they need to step behind the man and they need to do all of these things. You know, I think so many of the cultures, like, you know, back in the day were maternal. The women ruled it, you know? They were the ones that created the life. They were the ones that had the call, and like the men were out there like hunting and bringing things back in. You know, it feels like we're so kind of far from this idea at times, that, you know, women really could be very powerful leaders, especially when we're together, you know, especially when we're working together. And I think that, you know, part of our society is trying to keep women apart from each other, apart from their own bodies, apart from their own power sources, you know? Yeah. And I think that,
And
yeah,
it's
women
really,
being part of their own emotions and being able to honor how they feel, straight power, straight power.
yeah. And I think it's really powerful when women come together. So like
Mm-hmm.
one of my goals for my fertility business is to actually gather women together that are passionate about transformation and natural healing and really like taking back their power. But the same thing could be true for any women's circle, a women's circle where we're going to support one another and be vulnerable with one another. It's really a powerful thing. And I almost feel like in the fertility industry, I feel like there's a really strong separation that women have from other women. And it's really weird because it's artificial. Like if a woman is struggling to get pregnant, like she's connected naturally to every woman who's not only struggling to get pregnant, but every woman who's ever had a baby or every woman who's ever pregnant, you know, she's connected. And yet we don't really encourage that connection so much in society. Like we see infertility as a really like separate thing, an isolating thing, when really fertility and infertility, like it's a part of the mother-baby cycle. It's a part of being a mother, and I see it as really, you know, intimately connected. But whatever healing journey a person is on, mental health healing journey, you know, childhood healing journey, I think like getting together and really supporting one another is very important.
Yeah, you know, and I agree. And I think that's really important too. I know that, you know, I've met a lot of people that have felt very, very lonely and isolated on their journey to try to get pregnant and have really struggled at times when they really are trying so hard. And then, for instance, like I had an experience in college where a girl that I knew was married and she and her husband were very actively trying. And then a girl that I knew actively was not trying, but accidentally got pregnant. And it absolutely destroyed their relationship. There was no coming back from it because the one that wanted a child was really upset that this other woman was upset that she ended up pregnant, you know, and both of them have very different stories. You know, it shouldn't have ever been a divide, but it's like, I think, yeah, in that particular journey, it can really divide you. Or it can make you feel like something's wrong with you if you're not able to right away. And I feel like that must play with your mind as well, too, to think that, like, you know, yeah, something is wrong, I guess. Yeah, you would know more than me, obviously, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you really like hit the nose on hit it on the nose or whatever that phrase is.
yeah.
But yeah, like women often when they're struggling with infertility, they often feel like, what's wrong with me? Why can't this happen? And then yeah, when they see other women who got whoopsie pregnant, like that can be really triggering for them. And I think it's because like you said, like we are really so intimately connected. And even if you look back at our history in our society, like we've always been tribal people who look to one another, you know, for safety and connection and all that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, like something that, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just really liked this comment here. You know, I like what you said that that soul wanted that mom and that you can't push a soul. Trying to force a pregnancy is like pushing a soul to a body inconsensitively, I'm not sure, to be in a body that it hasn't chosen to be in. And I think that there is a portion of that too, if you're looking at it on the spiritual sense. Again, it doesn't necessarily make it easier when you are trying to be the one that is conceiving and then, you know, to feel that as well. But, you know, there is that you can't necessarily force the timing around it. And it's usually hindsight makes so much sense as to why pregnancies didn't work out at the time, you know? Yeah, we can't. Oh, sorry, kicked the table there. Can't always force those things as much as we would, you know, like to. Timing has to play out. We have to be patient. But yeah, yeah, it's so hard not to have expectations, I guess, I think is the big thing that I see.
Yeah, I do agree in divine timing. And a part of what I do is actually help my clients call in their baby, which
Yeah,
is something
nice.
that you can absolutely do. And it's so powerful. My last client, when I first was working with them with baby spirit work, a little boy came in right away. And we were like, oh, okay, cool, like you're going to have a little boy. And then all of a sudden, like a little girl was showing up in the meditation that we were doing together. And then I got like, I got the awareness like one pregnancy, two babies. and she ended up having twins. Quite frankly.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But I
Yeah,
think like
yeah.
using our psychic abilities and our intuitive abilities, you know, on our healing journey to baby or just healing journey in general, like can be so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think that's one of the things as to why so many people, I guess maybe if you're looking at conspiracy or whatever, but why I think they try to disconnect us from our body so strongly is because our body is such a powerful intuitive source, and one of the strongest psyche senses is when you can feel it because it's just like it's there. It's so strong that you can't deny it. And I think that that's why they try to kind of separate us and why they try to separate women from their bodies is because our intuition does know, that gut response. When is it ever wrong? Sometimes we wish it
Yeah.
was more wrong. But, and I think that that's so powerful too. And how many women, their intuition only grows and increases as they're pregnant as well, too. So yeah, there's that keeping us out of our body, I think, is just one of those things that they're doing to try to maybe numb us down or control us a little bit more. And somebody had said that in one of the comments that numbing was their go-to when they were avoiding their healing. And that's the thing. We all try to numb. That's why I had substance abuse issues, is I was trying to numb in the belief I'm having fun or, whatever. But really it's trying to numb because then you have to listen, you have to hear it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will make you do things that's a little bit challenging, that's a little bit tough, but it's so important. And I think that that sisterhood and that womanhood that you're trying to create in people's fertility journey as well, I think is really important. Because I also know so many mothers who have their child and then they have their child and then it's like, well, now what am I supposed to do? And they don't feel like they have any support or connections or community. And that was another reason why I can recognize I've always been really scared to have a child, is because it's like, who am I supposed to reach out to if I need help? And I know that's a fear that's not based in reality. But when you don't have that connection with your mom or your sister, or like, that family line that's had children before, or you would even want them to, you know what I mean? I don't really want them stepping in and like, putting that same trauma into my child that they put into me. So for me, I was always a little bit afraid of that too, of like, I don't want to have a child and then feel like I'm completely isolated and have to raise it on my own without really knowing how. So yeah, I do think that's so important that you're establishing more of that connection there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that like what we've been saying about connection with the body is so important. And I think that the best way that women can first approach their fertility is really asking their body, like, body, do you want to do IVF or IUI? Or body, do you want to take this herb? Or body, is this the right person to help you on your journey to baby? Because I think so many women, they make conclusions, oh, I should do IVF or I should do IUI. And I'm not necessarily opposed to them per se, but they're not even asking their body if their body wants to do that, number one. And number two, they're not trusting that their body can naturally heal itself. That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of women go straight to the IVF or the IUI from a place of fear, from a place of not trusting that their body can come back into wholeness. When the truth is our bodies are literally designed to come back into wholeness and healing. I mean, if you look at the liver and the kidneys and the colon, like these are our detox pathways. So when our bodies are taking in excess toxins or whatever, the liver is designed to clear it out. Same thing with the kidneys. Or, if one hormone
Sorry, guys.
We're both a hot mess today.
Sorry.
Feminine
Okay.
But it's like if one hormone, gets out of balance, another hormone will race to kind of pick up the slack. Like our bodies are literally designed to come back into wholeness and healing. And yet so many women don't trust their body. They don't trust their body's ability to come back into wholeness and healing. And that's a really big part of my message as well, is I want women to start to trust their bodies again.
I love that. Yeah.
Ask them, when did you stop trusting your body? When? Were you really little?
Did
Was
you
it
ever
before you were born? Was
start?
it, yeah, was it ancestral? You know, is this going back thousands of years
Yeah.
on your female line? Like,
Yeah, exactly, because I think about some of the things that even just I heard growing up, and it was, and I don't even want to say that this is just coming from my family. Like, just growing up, I don't feel like there was ever that, trust in your own body. It was always straight to the doctor, straight to the medicine, straight to, all of these things, as opposed to like, what about just checking in? What about listening to yourself? That was never like, that was always like the joke, you know what I mean? Like, or laughable or whatever. But yeah. And I agree. Someone was like, our bodies are super cool. Yeah, thank you, body. Thank you for doing this for us. You know what I mean?
and that's where true empowerment comes from. Like, if
Mm.
you kind of like get to the core of like what is human empowerment or female empowerment, it's about trusting yourself on every level, trusting in your body, trusting in your money story, trusting in your leadership, trusting in your awareness, everything in your relationships. Like, that is the core of empowerment. And so when you don't fully trust your body, you can't actually be in your full power,
Mm.
because this is where we live. This is our home.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, we have it
exactly.
for the rest of our lives.
Mm.
And so that's a big part of my work as well, as women coming back into their true authentic power, which is learning to trust their bodies again.
Well, and here's this question here. How would you say one can begin to develop the trust? So, what would you recommend for that very first step in trusting your body?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, kind of getting back to what you were saying before around how it's scary for a lot of people to even connect with their body.
Mm.
One really amazing place to start is somatic experiencing. Somatic experiencing, the website is traumahealing.org, and working one-on-one with a practitioner can be super helpful. And I've done that. I've done one-on-one work with a somatic experiencing practitioner. And
Mm-hmm.
it's based on, it's therapy, but it's based on the body and how trauma is stored in the body. And so that can be a real, especially if people are feeling scared. Because if
Mm.
people are feeling scared, they probably do have some difficult emotions that are stored, in here. So if people are feeling scared, especially, but maybe not scared, but just kind of unsure, that's a really great place to start, is doing one-on-one work. And somatic experiencing work is really, the
Mm.
practitioner will guide you to taking breaths, slowing down, and really tapping into different parts of your body. So how does your solar plexus feel? How does your bottom feel? How does your heart feel? And you really just kind of slow down and connect to the different parts. And maybe when you connect to your solar plexus, you're like, oh, I'm feeling some pain there. And it's like, okay, let's breathe through that pain and take some deep breaths. And then they might teach you a certain technique to kind of move the energy. But I would
Mm.
say learning to trust your body, it's a lifelong process. It's a
Yeah.
lifelong process of being willing to commit to coming back to your body, and back and back and back and back, no matter what's going on here, no matter if there's pain or there's trauma or there's sadness or there's grief. It's really that lifelong commitment that you're willing to take, and adding certain tools like somatic experiencing, or even like things like 5 rhythms could be, like ecstatic dance could be really helpful, like conscious dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is what you
Yoga.
were saying there for dancing. You wouldn't be here without it. I get that. Dancing
Yeah.
transformed me, yoga transformed me, Pilates. Let me tell you what, like if
Hmm.
you're having a bad day, just go kick your ass in Pilates and you'll feel fine afterwards. You know what I mean? Like those endorphins will be pumping. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I think something else with trust too is just be willing to put in the time, because trust only builds over time. It's not something that happens overnight. And, a
Hmm.
lot of this does take being willing to let larger patterns, kind of take shape, and you can see that it confirms. Or it's like, for me, when I was developing my intuition a lot, I would journal, and I would journal a lot and notice when things were coming back around. And then I could go back and actually read when I like started doing this. But again, it was all timing. I had to be willing to, you know, make a decision or feel something and then see the effects come maybe even like a year or two later. Sometimes it comes in those first couple of days, but sometimes we have to be willing to wait for those longer terms. And I think that that's why building that trust can be difficult, is because so much of us is like struggling all the time to break our habits and just return to homeostasis and what's comfortable. And for a lot of us, not trusting ourselves is more comfortable, because it's like, if you put all of your trust in other people, then if something goes wrong, again, you can blame them. But if you put all of your trust in yourself and then something goes wrong, you have to like, oh my gosh, I had to take that accountability. And I think that that's another thing that can be a little bit difficult on our trust journey as well, too, is if there is a slip up, to not go backwards, you know, but it's that same thing. It's not linear. So yeah, but I think in general, for me, it was just accepting that I had to have timing and patience around this. And if you know me, I'm like the most impatient person that's ever lived. So like, this was not anything that like I wanted. I wanted to trust myself, and I wanted to trust myself now. Yeah, exactly. I want to change and I want to be better now. So
yeah, I'm Venus Aries, so I relate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Sagittarius, like sun and rising, so I think I just had like no hope ever for patience in this life. Oh, but yeah, you know, and I think that for me as well, one of the things that I did for that trust, again, I cannot stress enough, journaling is my thing. You know, like I benefit a lot from journaling. Or sometimes if I don't feel like the process of fully writing it out, I'll even like record as well too. Like I'll record my thoughts too, you know, and I feel like that for me is what helps build my trust, is because then I can actually tangibly go back and see how I'm transforming, how my thoughts are coming together, and, you know, that kind of thing. So that for me is what built my trust. But yeah, and of course, we're very happy to answer questions. If you guys have any questions, please let us know.
Yeah, I love what you said too about like, yes, commitment, but also not being tied to a particular timeline. Like for me, I've been on a healing journey for 20 years, and I started somatic experiencing about 10 years. So I've been on this journey for a long time, you know, and only maybe in the last 6 months to a year have I felt a certain level of comfort and trust in myself and availability with my body. And so, yeah, sometimes it does take longer than we would think or we would want. But we have to really, somebody's reading the comments here. Sometimes we just have to really trust the universe and trust in divine timing and trust that everything will come together when it's meant to come together.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too, you know, and I can just, when I think back on it, like I'm very different from these 2 years, you know, as you were talking about from the beginning, but I can think about how intense and heavy and dense so much of this energy was that I had. And I can think about how it kind of has to come off a little bit by little bit. And there has to be, I think, softness in that as well too. We have to be okay with the fact that it needs to kind of shed off in layers, because if I went from how I am now to like where I was 2 years ago, or like that process, like if it had all just burst at once, number one, I would not have appreciated the journey to get myself here. I would not have grown in the way that I have. But I also, I feel like I would have been very negatively shocked by it, even though it was all a very positive experience at the end of the day. Like we have to kind of go layer by layer and appreciate the fact that that's just the way it has to be done, you know, and be okay with that. Like I think as each layer kind of comes off of that heavier energy, more inviting energy is able to come in. And then as we allow it in and as we work through those trust issues of ourselves, we can start seeing it outplaying in other areas of our life too. We start trusting other people more. We stop, you know, like victimizing ourselves as much, you know, like we start doing a lot more of these things. Sorry, my dog is playing with another dog back here and like going a little crazy. So if my chair just starts moving, that's why. But yeah, and it is, it's like you said, like a walking onion. We kind of have to move through these things layer by layer, and it's forming a relationship with ourself too, because I can look back on this and realize that when I didn't trust myself, I didn't really have a relationship with myself either, if I'm just
Yeah.
being honest. And I can see now that I have more of a relationship with myself. I trust myself way more, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that had to come with accepting the good and the bad, like I know that I'm a good person, but I also know that I'm a hot mess sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's finding the balance and like the self-compassion there too. That, yeah, I really found made a huge difference, and being okay with everything like this. A lot of what we're talking really does involve so much being okay with embracing our shadow and our shadow side, those elements of us that are very difficult to kind of take a look at and address at first.
Yeah. And for women couples that are going down this fertility journey, that is required to look at your shadow self, number one. Look at all the ways you don't trust yourself, you don't believe in yourself, your negative thinking, your traumas, but also the onion layers as well. Because so many women and couples who are trying to get pregnant, they haven't done the work. I've been doing healing work for 20 years, but most haven't. And so it
Yeah.
often does require those layers of trauma and difficulties and confusion and to get back to the core. Because really, whatever you're wanting to do in life, whether you want to get pregnant, whether you want to know the right next step in your life, get sober, whatever, getting rid of those layers and really trusting yourself and connecting back to the core of who you are is what you need. Like, it's where it's at for everything in life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it so is. And I think too, like, yeah, again, the more that I was able to trust myself, the more I was able to trust other people. And I was able to trust a new path of life too. Because I
Yeah.
think something as well that you mentioned earlier is that this is like when you take these changes, your life will always be different. It can't go back to the way that it was. And that is scary. That is scary sometimes because we are so comfortable in our discomfort, and that's one of the biggest things that I have to break through when we do tarot readings with people, is just kind of letting them know more often than not, we're more comfortable to suffer than we are to feel peace.
Yeah,
you
I
know
see that a lot with my fertility clients. Yeah.
because then when we actually empower ourselves, we have to do the work. We have to make those changes, and yeah, at times, like, it can feel kind of easier to just say that we're sitting in this, and it's like, I can't make the changes. I can't make the changes, like it seems easier on a level to do that, but it's not at the same time too. But yeah, it's such a thing that we have to try to break down. And I can really like respect the work that you're doing and like getting women back in touch with their bodies. I think that's so like, yes, good for you. And I'm trying to do this as well, in my own way too. Like, I think as long as we can get people to like get back into themselves, get back into their roots, truly, I think that a lot of people can see very big changes, and I think we can actually see some really big changes in our society as well, too.
Yeah, and I think that as a society, we need to approach not only fertility, but just healing in general, healing of the physical body in general in a different way. Because I
Yeah.
think with fertility, but also just healing the body in general, we really like celebrate suffering. Like, we really
Mm-hmm.
celebrate people who are like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain because I can't get pregnant and I'm stuck and I'm in trauma. Da, 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 da. We really celebrate that. Or, oh, I have mental health struggles and I don't know how to get out of it and I'm stuck and it's hard. And da, da, da. We really celebrate that
Yeah.
instead of like loving people where they're at, number one, but also supporting them to have a wider perspective on things
Mm.
and supporting them to have these shifts and these transformations, and also supporting them into feeling that there's a different possibility. I mean, with the work that I do with my clients with fertility, I'm like, what if there's a different possibility? What if instead of feeling that it's hard and difficult and painful and it's confusing, what if you actually just learn to trust the body and opened up to other possibilities and other awarenesses and other experiences? And you can have that with anything, with your sobriety journey, your mental health journey, your trauma journey, whatever. But yeah, I think as a society, like I really am hoping that we can change to celebrate people who are willing to really look at themselves in an honest way and want to do those layers of healing and the transformation and they want to open up the possibilities.
Yeah, yeah. And and I think that they are. Like, I don't want to make it seem like it's so hopeless. I think that there is way more potential now. And I think a lot of people are really waking up to the fact that, you know what, doctors do not need to be the final end all. You know what I mean? That we can trust our own body, we can listen to ourselves, and I know that when I first was going on my own journey with therapy and mental health, I met this therapist and she didn't even finish a full session with me before she immediately just said, you need to be on antidepressants. I didn't even have one full session with her. It was just straight to the pill. You know what I mean? And then when I told her, I don't really feel like this is working, then it was like, oh, well, we add another one and this one's even stronger. You know what I mean? And it was always just add that next, whatever. But when I listened to my own body, when I listened to what, she never touched on my trauma. She never did any of these things. And when I can look back on it now, I weaned myself off of the antidepressants at some point because I just realized, yeah, I really don't resonate with this. And I can tell that this is not right for me. But I had to listen to myself. I had to go against my therapist at the time who was doing the best for me. But again, I had to listen. Yeah, exactly. Fucking pills. Like
And I think that can be, yeah, and I think that can be okay sometimes for in the short term. Like if there's a real emergency mental health situation, maybe it's okay in the short term, but it's like it's a quick fix, to take antidepressants for mental health challenges. It's really a quick fix. So if there are imbalances in the brain or unresolved trauma, or maybe you're not happy in your life, or you're not happy where you live or with your partner or whatever, it takes more work, but ultimately you're getting to the root of it. And it's the same thing with fertility, I see certain things in the fertility realm as maybe being a short-term quick fix, and maybe that's okay for now, but really can we get to the root of it? Can we heal whatever is really deep and inside? Because when you have mental health struggles and you really heal whatever is contributing mentally health-wise, that changes your whole life, and that changes you at the core of who you are. Versus the antidepressants, it's a quick fix, it's a band-aid, which again, maybe it's okay for a short period of time, but it doesn't get to the core of who you are and give you that transformation that you need at that core.
Yeah, and I think you guys are bringing up good points as well, too. The doctors can be about money. I don't want to say that this is every doctor, but they really can, and that's what brings them back to you. And I do feel like that was the case with my therapist. She was getting money from big pharma, every person that she put on those pills. You know what I mean? So, and then when I told her that I wanted to take myself off, it was like the end of the world. You know what I mean? And yeah, but then I realized that what was best for me was yoga, dealing with my sobriety, and actually like coming to terms with some of these things, which is what I actually came to therapy for, not for the pill. But, it's always a journey. We always have to kind of go through the wrong roads before we find the right ones. You know what I mean? But yeah, and I think that, and again, that was another thing where she was keeping me out of my body to do the healing. It was just, oh, you have these problems with the mind, this pill will fix it. Again, not even touching on my body and what could be going on in there and what could be stored in there. So yeah, I think that yeah, and I can agree with that when you say that your friend used the pills for 8 years and it felt like it stole their life. I became a zombie. It was like I was a walking shell of myself, for sure. And I could not connect to my deeper intuition in the same way when I was on those pills. And I'm not making that up. That's 100%. Like, I've always been psychic, for better or for worse. This has always been one of my gifts. But when I was on my pill, I have never felt so disconnected with my own intuition as when I was on the antidepressants, So, yeah, and I think that I think it's amazing that you're like embracing this holistic path, and I'm really like So grateful that we were able to connect on this. My phone is about to die. So we are going to have to wrap things up, but this has been super great. I really love chatting with you. And if anybody has any final questions, please throw them out. Anything about healing, if you guys have personal questions for us, let us know.
Yeah, and if there's anybody who is either trying to get pregnant or they maybe know somebody who's trying to get pregnant, I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. I'm Sara Faith Jacobsen on Instagram. I also have a personal Facebook page and a YouTube and a podcast. So I would love for you to check out all of those. I would love for you to listen to my podcast and connect with me. But yeah, this has been so much fun. I'm really glad that we connected. And
Absolutely. We'll do this again
yeah,
for sure.
okay.
And thank you guys for hopping on, joining in. I think I will post this on my page if anybody wants to watch it later. But yeah, thank you
Yeah, I was
again.
hoping to snag it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was hoping to snag it from your page and like put it on my YouTube and all that.
Okay, sounds good. All
Okay,
right. Bye, you guys. Good to see
bye.
you.
Thanks, Kiki. Bye. Mwah. Bye.
Okay. Bye.